very good morning to one and all. Myself, Chetan Gupta, CSE Department SIRTS, the SAGE Group. Today, we are going to discuss about the subject OOPM, that is Object-Oriented Programming and Methodology. And today, in this lecture, we are going to discuss about the topic that is inheritance. Now, as we know, inheritance is one of the most important features of object-oriented programming. Inheritance can be defined as the process where one class can acquire the property of another class. That means one class uses the property of another class, that is method and the fields of that particular class. The class which inherit the property of other is known as subclass. It is also known as derived class or a child class, and the class those properties are inherited is known as superclass, base class, or parent class. Generally, inheritance is done for the reuse the same code. Rather than we are writing the same code again and again, we use the code of base class in the derived class. Now, if we talk about what are the types of inheritance, so we have 5 types of inheritance, that is single inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and hybrid inheritance. These are the 5 different category of the inheritance. Now, if we see the structure, that if we talk about single inheritance, so suppose A is a base class and class B is a derived class. So this type of inheritance where class B can inherit the property of class A, there is only one base class and one derived class, then this type of inheritance is known as single inheritance. Now in figure number B, if there are two base class or more than two base class having a single child class is known as multiple inheritance. Now in figure number C, if we see the hierarchical inheritance means the one base class having multiple child classes. So this kind of inheritance is known as hierarchical inheritance. After that, the D, that is multi-level inheritance. In multi-level inheritance, suppose as we have seen in the figure that class A is a base class, class B is a derived class of class A. Now from that derived class B, we again derive another class that is a class C. So this kind of level of inheritance is known as multi-level inheritance. And the last one is the hybrid inheritance. Hybrid inheritance is based on the concept of multiple inheritance and hierarchical inheritance. Basically, if we see from class A, we derive two classes, that is B and C. Now, if we see the upper portion from class A, we derive two classes B and C. Now, this is look like hierarchical inheritance. And from that B and C derived classes, we again derive a single child class, that is class D. Now this is look like multiple inheritance. From two base class, we have derived the class D, a single derived class. So this is look like multiple inheritance. So we can say that hybrid inheritance is a combination of hierarchical inheritance and multiple inheritance. Now, what is inheritance? Inheritance is basically a feature in which the properties of a base class comes in the derived class. During inheritance, we have to specify the visibility mode. Visibility mode basically indicate that which data of a base class comes in the derived class. Now here in this figure, if we can see that the base class contains 3 sections: public section, protected section, and private section. Now, if we see the mode of inheritance, if we take the visibility mode public, now the public data of a base class comes inside the public data in the derived class, and the protected data of a base class comes in the protected section of derived class. That means if we use the visibility mode public, So the public data of base class comes in the public section of the derived class, and the protected data of a base class comes in the protected section of the derived class. Now it is the condition if we use the public visibility mode. Now if we change the visibility mode from public to protected, so we can clearly see that both public and protected data of a base class comes in the protected section in the derived class. Now private data is not inherited. In all the condition, we can never inherit the private data of base class. We can inherit only public and protected section of a base class inside the derived class. Now the third one, if we use the visibility mode private, then both public and protected data of a base class comes inside the private section of a derived class. Now this is a very important concept of the visibility mode, that if you clearly see that visibility mode specify that which section of a base class comes under the which section of a derived class. Now if we talk about single inheritance, so single inheritance is basically one base class having one derived class, and basically the direction of arrow simply indicating the direction of inheritance, that from class base we can develop a new class that is a derived class. It is also known as child class. Now if we see the syntax of a single inheritance, that first we use the class keyword, now the base class name. This is the normal features as we have already discussed how to create a class. Now we open the body of that particular base class. Inside that class we declare data member and member function. When the member function is declared, we terminate the class along with semicolon. Now the next line, that is class derived class name. Now this is the syntax how we can inherit the base class. So here we write class, then derived class name. After that we use colon, then the visibility mode. Visibility mode simply specify which kind of visibility mode you are using, either public, either private, and either protected. And after that visibility mode, we write the base class name. So that line simply inherit the base class. All the data member of a base class comes in the derived class, and inside that derived class have its own data member and member function. When the member function and data member is declared in the derived class, we have to terminate again the class with semicolon. So this is the basic syntax of the single inheritance. Now if we talk about multiple inheritance, so multiple inheritance means multiple base class having a single derived class. Suppose that in a syntax we create a class that is a base class, class name 1. After that, inside that class we declare one data member, that is data member and member function. When the data member and member function are declared in the base class 1, we have to close that class. Now we declare another class, another base class 2, by using the syntax class, then base class name, then body open. After that we declare the data member and member function of the base class 2. After that we terminate the base class 2. Now the derived class inherited both classes, base class 1 and base class 2. So here in the third step we write class derived class name. Again we write colon visibility mode base class name 1, comma visibility mode base class name 2. So by writing this syntax we inherit both base class 1 and base class 2. Now if we can see that in the derived class we again declare the data member and member function of the derived class. So that derived class contain its own data member and also contain the data member of base class 1 and base class 2. So this is called multiple inheritance. Now in multi-level inheritance, we declare base class. From that base class we create a new class that is a drive class 1, and from that drive class we again create another drive class that is drive class 2. So this kind of inheritance is known as multi-level inheritance. As we have seen in its syntax, class again a keyword, then base class name. That base class contain again data member function. Now we closing the class. Now we create a drive class 1 by using the syntax that is class drive class name. After that we write colon, again the visibility mode, then the base class name one, because we are creating drive class, so that drive class simply inheriting the base class. Then we open the body of that drive class 1. After that we declare data member and member function of the drive class 1. Now we terminating the drive class 1. Now from that drive class 1 we again create another drive class, that is drive class 2. So simply again we write class basically is a keyword, then drive class name 2 colon visibility mode. Now here we pass the drive class name 1. We here not pass the name of base class, because here we are implementing multi-level inheritance, so that from that drive class 1 we are again going to create another drive class, that is drive class 2. That's why we pass, after the visibility mode we write the drive class name 1. Again that drive class 2 also contain its own data member and member function, so that that drive class 2 contain its own data member. It also inherit the base class 1, base class and the drive class. Now in hierarchical inheritance, there is single base class having a multiple child class. For example, we declare one base class, and from that base class we declare drive class 1, drive class 2 and drive class 3. Now we see the syntax, that is class, then base class name that contain data member and member function, then class is terminate. After that we, from that base class we create the drive class 1. So we write class drive class name 1 colon visibility mode. After that we write the name of a base class, because drive class is derived by the base class, because all drive 1, drive 2 and drive 3 classes are the child of that base class. So all the drive classes is inherit property of base class. That's why we write the base class name 1. Now that drive class 1 contain data member and member function. Now we terminating the class. After that we create a new drive class. This new drive class again inheriting the same base class, and it have its own data member and member function. And again we create another drive class, that is drive class 3, and that drive class 3 simply inherit the base class, and it contain its own data member and member function. Now this is known as hierarchical inheritance. Now in today's lecture we have discussed about what kind of inheritance: single inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and at last we are going to discuss about hybrid inheritance. Basically hybrid inheritance is a combination of multiple inheritance and hierarchical inheritance. Basically in this we create a base class, that is a class A. So we simply create a base class, open the body of that base class, and we write data member and member function in the base class. From that base class we again create two drive classes, that is drive class 1 and drive class 2. Now we use the same syntax. Drive class inherit the base class and it contain data member function. Now the class is terminated. So this is simply we create the drive class 1. Now again we create a new drive class 2. Again that drive class 2 inherit the base class by simply writing the syntax of the inheritance, and it also contain data member and member function of that particular class. So from base class we create two new classes, drive class 1 and drive class 2. Now from these two drive classes we are going to create a single drive class. So we write class drive class name 3 and visibility mode. Then the after the visibility mode we passes the drive class name 1. After that we apply comma. Then again we write visibility mode. Visibility mode simply public, private or protected. Now again we pass the drive class name 2. So simply the drive class 3 is inherit the property of drive class 1 and drive class 2. Now it contain also its own data member or member function. So here we have simply discussed what is inheritance, what are the types of inheritance, and we have discussed how inheritance is represented, and we have discussed all the syntax of single inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and hybrid inheritance. So in today's lecture, we simply discuss about what is inheritance, and in our next lecture, we will see the practical implementation of that inheritance by using the C++ program. So for today class, this is and okay.